There are 7 specific Angry Birds who perfectly represent the 7 heavenly virtues, and we're going to start off with chastity. Nothing better embodies this virtue more than Matilda. She embodies the virtue of chastity through her precise and very smart actions in the context of all the games and also the tunes. You can say Matilda showcases this virtue in the games as, let's say there's a level where a structure is obviously housing some pigs and there's a critical weak point that you want to target perfectly to make the whole building collapse. Instead of using brute force like some other birds like Red or let's say Terrence, she can drop a precise bomb on the weak point, causing a chain reaction that will just make the building crumble and killing the pigs. You may be asking, where does this show the virtue of chastity, as it's normally reflected as a purity type virtue? You can see that this reflects on the virtue of chastity as the ability to have pure intention, which we addressed before. And the reason why it can be called this is because she is only targeting what is necessary to do, not overindulging in the bad things like killing a lot of pigs, like a lot of brute force would do, where you need to redwood, do it repeatedly. You can just do it once and get the whole thing over and done with a simple action. Next virtue we actually have up comes into really close ties with the past one, chastity, is temperaments. This is the quality of moderation or self-restraint. And the birds that I've chosen to represent temperaments is the Blues, Jay, Jack, and Jim, the 3 birds. And the reason I chose them is because they distribute their power in a controlled manner. When you press the screen or click or whatever device you're playing on, there's like 4 different thousand devices. They split equally into thirds and their power is equally distributed. There may be some discussion about this, but that they don't really have self-control, which temperance also really means, and you know, the sweets. But a lot of these Angry Birds, they all have, there's a limited selection. They all have their faults and stuff. So the closest one that in my opinion, was temperance is the Blues. And I felt that the ability to split into 3 different birds from one bird in the games just perfectly represented temperaments, the self-control ability to equally break yourself into 3 equal parts and not having one part stronger than the other, which went quite well. For my example, quite similar to Matilda, when you're attacking some pigs that are shielded behind stone, wood, glass, or any other materials in any of the games, or even the gravitational pulls of space, instead of sending a single bird that is really powerful, you can send 3 and they split mid-fight and all equal and hit different parts of the structure, weakening it all in a controlled manner, which temperaments is being self-controlled. And it just makes it very, very sensible to give this virtue to the Blues for having this. Next, we have the virtue of charity, which means the voluntary giving of help. So you're just giving your time to help other people in need. Right here, we have a perfect contrast to the 7 deadly sins, wrath, where I'm going to select red to represent charity, which is love, which is the opposite of wrath, basically. So the reason why I picked red as being charity and love is because obviously he's the leader of the birds and he's the most recognized Angry Birds in the whole franchise, being the face of Angry Birds. But he symbolizes charity as his unwaveringly dedication to protecting the eggs and for his fellow birds to all get their eggs back in also the movie and seen throughout the games. And not only is charity in this context is about selfless love, care, and devotion to the well-being of others, Red's actions can be seen and have a deep sense of responsibility for his love for his community in the games, the tunes, and also the movie. Seen throughout the whole franchise, I'm not going to say the games, the movies, the tunes, but seen throughout the whole franchise, we can see Red is always the first person to start a rally against the pigs once they always get their hands on the eggs. And once they always get their hands on the eggs, Red is the first one to go, the first one to be flung, the first one to set them up. It's the first one to organize a method to get their eggs back. And that's why Red perfectly represents the virtue of charity and love in this franchise. Next virtue we have up is diligence, devoted and painstaking work. And none better represents this virtue more than Chuck, the yellow bird in the flock, with his known incredible speed represents diligence to his relentless approach to overcome any obstacle that comes in his way, and he will redo it as many times as it takes for him to do it. Diligence is about hard work and persistence, and Chuck perfectly showcased this with his unique ability to be incredibly fast. In the games, he can use his speed boost to go through any obstacles in his way. In the movies, we see this best, and also in the tunes, we see this best, where he uses his speed to be where he could just quickly, if he is trying to make a jump in the game or in the show or in the movie, he can just If he fails the jump, quickly go back and keep trying it until he gets it done. That is exactly what the virtue of diligence and persistence means in this context. Next virtue we have up next is patience, which is the ability to endure or enable delays in time. So the bird that perfectly represents this is actually Terrence. Terrence being one of the largest birds and also one of the most powerful birds known in the franchise, he just represents patience because of his slow but very, very devastating attacks. And patience involves the ability to endure hardships, obviously, but you have to wait for the right moment for these things to happen, for the right challenges and the right resolutions for those challenges to show. And wow, can Terrence stand and move not a single muscle? That is patience at its finest. That might be all I need to say, but it's not all that needs to be said. You can see throughout the movies and also the tunes where we get a best evaluation of Terrence's personality that he is very quiet, but wow, can he move fast, and does he have some dark aspects to him that we see, especially in the movies where we see Terrence go to, let's call it the anger management class, because Red went there over his violent outbursts in the movie, that he sees that he can endure a lot of hardships which a lot of the other birds just couldn't handle, and he just had the patience to sit down and get it done. The next, and one of the most popular known virtues of kindness, is the quality of being friendly, generous, and also considerate to those around. She is known for being quite envious for those birds around her, but she perfectly represents the virtue of kindness for her unique bubble blowing ability, which literally symbolizes kindness due to this gentle and non-destructive approach that bubbles have on the world. Really, it's a symbol for peace and harmony. Well, in the real world, bubbles can actually symbolize a good few things depending on the context, but generally it symbolizes the interconnectedness of all living things in the world. The next virtue that we have up is a bird that we don't really see much of, but I feel like perfectly represents the virtue of humility. Humility is the quality of having modest or low view on one's importance. The bird that I have chosen for this virtue is actually Bubbles. I did a link because Stella had bubbles and they were nice and kind, and there's an orange bird called, the reason why Bubbles suits humility the best out of all the birds in the flock is because Bubbles' unique ability to inflate to a massive size and then deflate back to his original form. A lot of you are saying that that's not what a humility is. That's because his ability doesn't make him who he is. Humility is about recognizing one's limits and not seeking undue attention from it, let's say. Bubbles never seeks praise or modesty from any of the moments of triumph that the flocks have, like getting their eggs back, obviously. But Bubbles' ability to cause great destruction and then shrink back to his small size is an unassuming size mirror for the humble nature of the virtue of humility. If you got this far into the video, I would highly appreciate it if you just subscribed. And it means it's such a simple thing to click a button, but it means so much. And if you got this far, I would really appreciate it if you got this far. And I'd love to hear some of your thoughts and some of your takes on some of the birds that I put into these virtues. And if you change any of them, let me know below why and which ones you'd like to change. I'll see you in the next video.